You are now listening to the Invited Podcast with Cedric Harris and Tia McLean. You've officially been invited.
Today, we invite Miss Alicia Kemp, CEO and founder of Speak Prosperity LLC, to share her story. So she is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. She's an ambitious and passionate and unapologetic servant of God. She's a business and credit consultant as well as a resource for 360 wellness and prosperity. So today, we're going to learn how to improve ourselves with the 360 mindset. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Yes.
And we're super happy to have Alicia on the pod. Alicia is someone I've known since back in the day. In 2012, a job we were both working while we were in college, and to see where she's come from then to almost 10 years later is something that I'm super proud of, and I'm grateful and happy that y'all get to hear her story as well. So can you just start by giving us a little brief bio about yourself and give us a little information about Speak Prosperity and what you hope to accomplish with your organization?
Woo, okay. Well, so again, like they said, they give me some of my bio and background. I'm originally from St. Louis. I've been in Dallas, Texas, for 3.5, going on 4 years now. So that's been an exciting journey. So currently for my 9 to 5, I do work as a relationship manager, business owner specialist, where essentially what I do is I work with consumer and business clientele. And my job there is to make sure I'm helping them achieve whatever financial needs, goals, priorities that they have in either of those areas. As far as being a CEO founder for Speak Prosperity, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little backstory. So actually how it came into fruition was literally I go to the Potter's house in Dallas, Texas. So that's where TD Jakes is pastor.
Yeah.
And so legitimately, I was sitting in service one day and he was just talking about purpose and he was talking about passion and how to make the two collide. And all the ideas for Speak Prosperity LLC just started to flow from that moment. Like literally, it was to the point to where it was so overwhelming. I just started writing notes in my phone like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to sell merch.
Yeah.
I always saw myself as an image consultant, or something of that sort. But the ideas just flow from there. And then honestly, that was in December 2017. And we just hit the ground running since then. And Speak Prosperity, what it is essentially, what you guys guessed it, it's a faith-based platform dedicated to assisting individuals and being better from a 360 standpoint. So we're not just talking about God and giving you cute quotes and scriptures. More or less, we are making sure that we are a resource to give you 360 wellness. So financially, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, we are wanting to cater to that entire person and make them better as a whole. So but it's all based upon the word of God, of course, because that's the center of who we are and what we do.
Yes.
So with that, you guys have kind of seen us branch out into blogging. We also have YouTube videos. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we just give daily words of wisdom and encouragement, and different content that ranges from, videos or just, nice, like I said, words of encouragement. And where we're just looking to expand is taking that to merchandise. Hopefully our merchandise expanding into sportswear and so much more in the years to come. But honestly, when I get that question of where do we see ourselves going, it's wherever God takes us. And I wanted to go as far as it potentially can to reach and impact thousands, millions, if he has so fit. But even if we just touch one person, then I'm still proud because I feel like I'm in purpose. So that's essentially who I am and who the brand is. And that's how we're rocking right now.
I love it.
Yeah, and you mentioned like being in the Potter's house and getting that word from God. Where did your journey with the Lord start? Is it were you always like in it? And if not, what drew you to God essentially?
I was kind of giggling in the back. You guys, you probably didn't see it, but said no. So we used to work at a sneaker boutique together back in the day, literally in 2012. And the moment that he's asking me this question, y'all, I'm really thinking about. I don't know if you've heard this story, but some of us, we would be like in the back, like on the clock. Not one of my proudest moments, like drinking 1837. Remy, like we would take turns, and was one person in particular used to bring like liquor to work, and we would be drunk at work.
Hey, she's speaking for herself.
No, she was
Not No, listen, Sam was like, y'all all right back there?
Yes, y'all
That
up
was
in the front.
said. That was said. I would say it wasn't we. I'm sorry. It was me. It was me. So needless to say, I haven't always followed God. And at certain points, to be honest, I really didn't believe in God because of so much that I saw in the world, that I saw within my own experiences, and that I saw in other people's lives, that I questioned God. What type of God would allow this to happen? But I think that as I continue to journey through life myself, and there were situations I put myself in, and situations that just happened by happenstance, and I knew that there was literally no one there but God, whether it was literally signs that I would be praying for. When I could do nothing else, I asked God for help, and he always was there. And so I said, you know what? I've tried every single thing else. I've smoked, I've drunk, I've partied, I've kicked it. Nothing brings me fulfillment. You know what? Nothing makes me happy. I'm not at peace. I'm not in a joyful space. And then literally, it was this song my mom, she turned on in the car. And the song was called Try Christ by Hezekiah Walker. Okay. And at that moment, I was like, you know what? I've tried everything, but I haven't tried God. You know what, God, you're right. I haven't tried you.
Right.
And so I said, you know what? I'll try you. Show me. And he did. And so I'm still here. So I'm still here. But yeah, so it's still a journey.
Mm-hmm. Was it something that he showed you, or you just like started putting pieces together, reading more?
So it was a combination of things. So legitimately, it was, there were so many questions that I had about my personal experience and why I had to experience them that I never understood and that I was still experiencing. So I was asking God via prayer for direction. Mm-hmm. I was asking him for answers or understanding, wisdom, clarity, all of these things. Yeah. Because to be honest, I wasn't that person that came to God because I wanted money. I wanted peace. Mm-hmm. I didn't have it. And so I asked him a lot for direction. That was my main thing. And so in that's when I started to kind of navigate myself into where I found my career, like in fashion or retail management, and then transitioning over into finance. And then literally from that point on, my finances soared, my relationships soared with family, with friends. I was beginning to discover who I was. Yeah. So I would say for me, the main thing I asked for was wisdom, and he gave that to me in so many different ways. But of course, I didn't just lay on my back and get it. You know, I had to read his word. I had to go to Bible study. I had to go to church, even though it's a scary place when you didn't really grow up in church. You're like, okay, people are shouting and talking in tongues and what's going on here, you know? But I think that it was me seeking that personal relationship. I didn't seek religion. I sought a personal relationship with God. Yes. Like, I was like, God, I want to be so close to you. If you tell me do not date this guy, like, I want to be able to stand on what you say and say, okay, I believe you, it's for a reason. Yeah. And so, I mean, I've even had scenarios like that to where I'd be like, God, show this person to me. Like, what type of guy am I really dating? And he would, whether it would be in a dream, whether that person would tell me something and they would say, I don't even know I told you that. Or they would show me something. I kid you not, so many times. Yeah. So just those are the ways in which I would say God showed himself to me. Yeah. He showed me.
That's powerful.
How hard was it when you were getting those messages to not keep doing what you wanted to do?
And take heed?
You know, like there was always those memes on Twitter. It's like, God, show me what if this person not right, and then he shows you like, all right, they ain't right. You don't know what you're talking about. So how hard was it for you to stay true to the course versus just doing your own thing?
And that's a real question. Like, especially when it comes to dating, we're like, well, God don't want me to be alone. So, I mean, you know, but I think what it was is in a lot of those scenarios, it was like, okay, God, I know, this is how I feel. Like, I talk to God like God is my homeboy. As like you have to, like, you be like, look, God, I'm fed up. Like, look, you got to make this make sense to me. And so, but I would say, God, you know what I want, you know what I desire. Yeah. I really like this person, or I'm interested, or I really love this job. I don't want to leave. But God, whatever's in your will, just show it to me. But I think the biggest thing is I had to remind myself is that no matter what, I know that God's will is to prosper me and not to harm me. Like, that's why Jeremiah 29:11 is my favorite verse. His will is to prosper me and not harm me. Like, he's going to give me hope in the future. So God's not going to let anything happen to me, or he's not going to instruct me to do something that is not going to work out for the greater good of myself, even if it hurts right now. Yes. So I always just have to, like, come back to God and say, okay, God, okay, give me the strength
Yeah.
to do, like, to go against my flesh. I don't always go against my flesh, but I definitely try to do my part. And when I find myself falling short, I bring myself back to that place of supplication. So reading the Bible, reading the scriptures, praying, like, you know, it's powerful in that to me. And not saying you have to pray an hour a day. I don't. Yeah. But, you know, but those conversations that me and God have, they're real. Yeah. And I try to be as real as possible. Like, I'll never present myself as some perfect believer, Christian, servant, whatever the case may be. Yeah. I'm like, God, I'm just me. You know where I come from, you know? So that's normally what I do. And it helps a lot.
Very nice. And God said, come as you are. You cannot pretend with the person who has created you. So I just wanted to add that.
Really?
We talk a lot about, like, transitioning, and how change is, like, constant. So what was that period for you, from starting your brand and then building it, like, from the ground up? So, like, what was that like?
Honestly, it was a ton of trial and error.
Okay.
And I think that, and for me also, it was periods of patience.
Yes.
Because I feel like there's so many memes. Like, we see it on social media all the time, especially as millennials, for us to quit the job, quit the 9-to-5, and go after your dreams, chase it. You know, I started with $2 in my bank account. And it's just, that's unrealistic for most. Mm-hmm. Like, for some, there's that, you know, 1 in a million, 1 in 100,000, that is their story. And I think that's amazing. Right. But for many of us, it's not. And it's unrealistic. And I think that it's unwise. So, like I said, those periods of patience to where, number one, I had never started a business before, like, legally. And so it was literally doing the research for myself. It was putting myself in a position as the true student. Like, because I think in a lot of cases, especially recent positions I've had, I was always teaching someone else. And I always kind of had the inside track on where I needed to be and what I needed to get to the next level. Yeah. But I just had to be completely in student mode, to where it was like, okay, let me research, how do I file for my LLC? You know, how, or seeking out help from social media consultants or marketing consultants. You know, how am I going to market this? How am I, who do I go to for my manufacturer? Or, you know, what's the best price point? Literally, I had to humble myself. Yeah. And say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out piece by piece. And if I'm not ready to proceed to that next stage in this transition, then I just need to sit a minute and figure it out. You don't have it all figured out every time you're about to transition. Yeah, like, we don't have it all figured out. I know it sounds good, but I definitely didn't. I started in December 2017 is when I filed the LLC. It was like December 20th. I didn't actually launch until September 1st, 2018. Okay. So I think that, like, if any piece of advice, well, not a piece of advice, but if anything that I would like to highlight is that, to where I had to have patience and understand, I don't know everything. I don't have everything figured out. I need to learn this. And then I can launch out into the deep when I'm equipped and I have the resources to do so.
Yeah. So it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
For sure. And you mentioned a lot about being a student and playing a different role rather than a teacher. Were there any people that helped guide you along the way? Any mentors, any people that you relied on as a resource? And if so, how did they help you? In what ways?
I had multiple mentors. I would say the biggest one, just being realistically, was my dad, you know, because he had started several businesses before, and he had actually at the time, he had done work with, you know, t-shirts before, specifically in that. And recently he hasn't been, you know, saved all of his life. I'm not here to tell his story, but he recently, you know, he came to God later in life, and, you know, now he's a pastor. Okay. But so he had, you know, an interest. I would say he had a lot of knowledge on how to, you know, conduct business, you know, as a faith-based organization, and specifically with, you know, apparel. He knew a lot about that, or starting businesses. And I know he also helps, like, people file, like, nonprofits and things like that. So he does that paperwork. So he had a lot of information and knowledge about business. And so he was my biggest mentor, I would say, as far as the business aspect went. And the biggest role that he played within that is just business acumen, how to do it, how to conduct conversations, how to have those conversations, how should you carry yourself in business? Yeah. How should you ask for partnerships? How you should seek this out, how you can connect and build and form partnerships with other people. And I think the best piece of advice that he gave me is you can get nowhere alone in business. You have to humble yourself and be open to the fact that you are going to need multiple partnerships. Yeah. And so that's in whatever type of business that you're trying to do. You're going to need different people, different connections to help you do different things. And that's okay. But I would say that was the biggest influence that I had. And of course, I had other mentors that played different roles as far as specifically how do you get the capital, and when you're looking for brand ambassadors for your apparel, and when you're doing marketing, these are the different apps that you use. And still now, I still have a ton of different people helping me different things. Like my girl Tajay, I hired her to teach me how to edit my own videos for YouTube. Oh, that's so cool. And literally she still helps me. I'm like, girl, what was that feature? You did that cool video within a video on your YouTube. How do you do that again? And so even still now, I'm still learning a lot and still humbling myself and saying, I don't have it all figured out. I need different people that are better than me in these different components that can provide me with the tools and resources to operate at maximum capacity.
Definitely. So your story is a reflection of what your dad was telling you. Like, you saw it play out. Like, he said I was going to need, different people and form these partnerships. And that actually is what happened. So you mentioned you had to, kind of step out of the expert role and be a student and ask for help. And so that's something I hope everybody can take from what she's saying, is that it's okay and it's necessary to ask for help and to seek and to learn from others. So
facts.
And we mentioned the YouTube and the editing. What really brought you into that? Because I know the YouTube space, and also you have the blog as well. So what influenced you or inspired you to share your own story? And why did you feel sharing your own story and your own opinions about different topics were important for others to hear?
I battle with this because I know that there's power in our testimony. Like, literally the word says we overcome by, the blood of the lamb in our testimony. And I think the power of the testimony is saying, wow, she's human just like me. Yes. She bleeds how I bleed. She's hurt how I've hurt it. She's been in my situation, or I can relate to her in this aspect. I'm not here alone. And I think that that's one of the easiest ways for the devil to kind of get us out of or throw us off our path, is to make you feel like you're all alone. No one is experiencing what you're experiencing by yourself. You're isolated. And so I knew that I needed to find the confidence, if I can be real with y'all, the confidence to step into that space and say, you know what, I'm going to make myself vulnerable and I'm going to share bits and pieces of me. And that's the number one thing that I struggle with. I mean, I went to therapy because of my vulnerability issues, so to get on YouTube in front of a camera and actually,
that's big,
share. And it's big. And I think also a part of that was, like I said, when I talk about that confidence piece, I've always been in roles to where, I've had to speak, or I've been a leader in most cases, not all cases. But there's a period of time to where, I lost that part of myself, and I lost myself to where, I wasn't operating at maximum capacity, and I wasn't my best self. And so I lost confidence in that part of me. And so being inspired to go back to YouTube is honestly, I feel like it happened at the later part of last year. And I was just like, you know what? I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm made in the image of God. I don't lack anything, and, at the end of the day, I'm not perfect, but I'm perfectly flawed. And that's what to me, it feels like I'm obligated to get up there and show that I'm perfectly flawed. I'm just like you. I'm trying to figure this thing out. And this is just one little person's story. This is one little person's voice, but let me share that. And I feel like, and for years, people have been asking me to do that. And I feel like God has been nudging me to do it. But to be honest, I lack the confidence to get back out there. I lost that part of myself. But literally, I had to find that confidence in how God sees me and not in the way that I see myself.
Yeah.
And for the listener, what kind of topics do you talk about on your YouTube or on your blog, just so they would know what kind of stories you're sharing?
Yes. So it's still, of course, it's all faith-based. And everything is rooted in scripture, but we talk about the main playlist that I have up there right now, or we talk about personal convictions. We talk about relationships. We talk about sex. I know.
Okay.
Let me back it back up for y'all. We actually do talk about sex because that's important. I think a lot of us, right, we're having to learn from porn and the world and social media instead of from, how does God see it, or let's bring this thing back holistically. How is it impacting you? I know that's a hot topic with our generation anyway. And so believe it or not, all the topics that are suggested on YouTube, they are like, those are topics that people have actually asked me to speak on. But for the most part, it's relationships, sex, personal convictions, self-esteem. Those are some of the playlists that I have so far. But literally I expect to expand into literally all of those areas. So we intend to hit all of those buckets. We're going to talk about how do you become better from that 360 standpoint, financially, spiritually, mentally, physically, all of those different ways. So essentially, that's the type of content that you'll get is everyday need to know information.
And I was browsing some of your videos. And so like you just mentioned, so you relate to people on a person-to-person level. Like you're able to bring people into your world of faith, but also help them to like understand that I'm just like you, you're just like me. And so one of the videos that kind of caught my attention was a video about toxic relationships. So let's talk a little bit more about relationships. So I feel that God wants relationship for everybody, and not just on a romantic level, but he wants all of us to, just have interactions with other people, and we're all put here to help other people. So, but getting back to toxic relationships, can you, Alicia, talk to us about one of the greatest lessons that you've learned or things you learned about yourself from either a good or bad relationship?
I can't even tell. You know what? I'll just go ahead and say it.
Okay.
It's an exclusive.
Okay.
So I'm
listen in.
You heard it first here on the Invited Podcast. Okay. But I'm actually working on, I can't believe I'm saying this, a book. But so it's going to be based upon, essentially it's going to be a parallel of dating in my relationship with God. Yes. So, but the greatest lesson that I feel like I've learned.
Or lessons, plural. The greatest lesson that I feel like I have learned in love is not even just when a person shows you who you are, believe them, but because I feel like that one's so cliche. But I feel like when we talk about relationships and love, we have to actually like that person's character. We have to connect on a character level. Like literally there needs to be a connection to where this is my friend. You have to like them. Let me put it in layman's terms for a lot of us. You actually need to like who you're with, meaning that you have to respect that person. You have to be relatable to that person. That person's values need to speak to your values. That person needs to be one who uplifts and supports and empowers you, and vice versa. That person needs to be the person that you actually want to call when you have good or bad news, or that you need to call when you have good or bad news. That will check you when you're tripping. That will also push you. So I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is pay attention to their character. Do you even like who they are as a person? And that's been a major one for me. And I think that just a real life example is I found out with a lot of the guys that I was even dating, I think we like to tell ourselves we're not settling. We like to tell ourselves that. But the real is we be settling, because we say, okay, well, they have out of the 5 things that I really need, they have 3.5. Okay. So, but or they have 3. So, we'll just kind of roll over the other 1 or 2. But what ends up happening is if that is something that you truly value and this person lacks that, or not even that they lack that, but they're not in alignment with that, then oftentimes we don't even like who that person really is. Right. How many times do we find ourselves, I love him, but I hate him? Or man, I love her. I can't stand her sometimes because you really don't like her. Like she really aggravates you. Like said, she really aggravates. Like literally, she annoys you. And every time, half the time when she speaks, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait till she shuts up. But because they're meeting a certain need for us, and we hate the idea of feeling alone or being lonely, that we're willing to settle for a piece
of what it is that we truly value and desire. And so to me, even though it's not something that's really talked about, and it's not like a ooh, amen moment, but hopefully it's an aha moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, do you even like who this person is? Do you guys value the same things? Are you truly compatible? Like, real. And I said, you know what? From this moment forward, I'm never doing that again. I have to like who this person is.
Yeah.
Like, even if I wasn't dating them, having sex with them, anything, can I just literally call them and talk to them for hours? Are we in alignment with one another? And so I would say that's just the most pivotal, I would even say detrimental thing in any relationship.
Yeah.
And that's how it's so easy for many of us to walk away, because we don't even like each other. We just, we're suiting a need. Mm-hmm. We're just not being lonely.
That's real. And that just reminded me, so a conversation I had with my hairdresser. So she was saying, those are the best conversations.
Yes, they are.
So she was saying, in any relationship, think about the best trait that person has and imagine that it will always be there. And then also think about the worst trait that this person has and imagine that it will always be there. Can you see yourself still putting up with that? So is that best trait enough to outweigh or, cover up the worst trait, or is that worst trait going to drive you insane if it's going to always be there? So just kind of like what we started off with is that if someone shows you who they are, believe them.
That's good. That's good.
And I had another question just about relationships. Alicia, do you believe in soulmates?
I do believe in soulmates.
Okay, and
Absolutely.
why is that?
I believe in soulmates because I believe that, number one, when literally, I'll take everything back to scripture. So literally, when man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. Yes. And when you are to get married, you're supposed to be under covenant with God. That's what the marriage is saying, God, before you, I am choosing this person to walk and serve my purpose, walk and completely do life with. Right. So knowing that, again, and God said it's not good for man to be alone. So knowing that intentionally he has someone out there for me, and that man is to pursue me, and that man is to choose me, I believe that, again, we were mated and created for one another. Now, I think that I will back that up and say, I think a lot of people miss that mark because we allow our desires, our fleshly desires, or we allow that to override reason a lot of the time, or we allow our emotions to override that reason. Yeah. So what we end up doing, instead of, latching onto our Russell Wilson, shout out Sierra, we decide to continue pursuing the futures. And the man is supposed to pursue us. So I think that, and even for the men, they miss out on literally that Ruth, like the Ruth and Boaz story for y'all. That's what I'm referencing. They miss out on that Ruth, that good woman that is laying herself at their feet. Yeah. They miss out on her chasing Keisha. I'm just saying, so but I think that the soulmate is definitely there. It's just a matter of, are you doing the work to put yourself in position to be the best version of yourself? Yeah. So that you can attract the man that God intended for you, or the woman that God intended for you. Okay. That's what I think.
And my last question about relationships, I'm not going to ask you if you got anything going on. I'm going to skate to this one. So, I'm always interested in how people who are really strong in their faith think about horoscopes. So I have friends I just read about on social media who say they will pass up somebody based on their astrological sign. What are your thoughts?
Oh, honey. We'll start it off by saying, if you are a Cancer, I will run for the hills.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, I am a Cancer, and Cancer the best. So just want to clarify that, but go ahead.
Okay, Sad. I'm sorry, Sad. I thought about that too. Every Cancer except for Sad. Sad is amazing. I don't know the rest of them. I don't know. I think God went to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. But no, honestly, no. And I'm just joking about the whole Cancer thing. I think that I would not disregard anyone based upon their sign. But I will say that for me, typically, if you're a Cancer, I am a little, I'll probably take off real fast. Yes. But I think that at the end of the day, I would say that ultimately what God has ordained for you is going to be for you. And even though I am a person to where I don't read like my daily horoscopes, but I'm into the horoscopes.
If it pop up, like,
if it pop up, I'm going, one thing about me, I'm gonna read about the horoscopes. I'm at least read about like, a Scorpio woman. I'm a Scorpio, by the way. A Scorpio woman or, a Capricorn man. Cause, I do want a little bit of the inside track when I'm dating someone. but I will not. I think it's, regardless of how much you believe in horoscope, do you believe in the sun and stars and the moon, or do you believe in God? Because he put them there. So it's like at the end of the day, my faith and my belief in God is always going to outweigh a man-constructed system based upon something that God created. So 2 things that God created are supposed to tell me that they know better than God? I think not. But yeah, I mean, and if that's the case, if I'm being completely honest, I always said that, I was like, you know what? I've never dated another Libra. I would never. I've had some of the most horrendous experiences and they were great, but I think just ultimately it just wasn't a good match. Yeah. But if I would have done that, I would have missed out on getting to know some great people. Exactly. I truly would have, and I would have been sadly mistaken. So I'm glad that I didn't do that. But so yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Interesting.
And so a lot of times what they say about relationships, one of the killers of them are finances.
Ooh, child.
And so that's been a big topic lately. I know recently there was a clip floating around from the Earn Your Leisure podcast from the Breakfast Club talking about just myths, financial myths. Can you tell us more about some of the financial services that you offer? And why is it important for people to be financially literate, but especially people in minority communities to be financially literate?
Amen. I'd be happy to speak. Well, firstly, as far as some of the services that I offer is credit consulting. Okay. So I offer that service. It's $100 an hour. But essentially what it is just a general knowledge share and then also an individualized strategy for how we can get you to obtain your goals and get to, at the very least, good credit. So essentially what you're doing in that, where I'm sharing general knowledge with you, but also taking a look and a deep dive at your particular credit situation and figuring out what we need to do to get you to the next level. And then, so that's the main thing I do with that. As far as business, I do business one-on-one consulting. That's not really more so finance, that's just business knowledge, but I also do business credit consulting. So again, the same situation, how, we'll take a look at your individualized path and develop a strategy for that. Now, why I think that financial literacy is uber important, especially in the Black community and in brown communities and people of color communities in general, minority communities, because let's look at the stats. We are disproportionately, we have disproportionate access to capital to even fund our businesses, to start those businesses up. So literally, and I think systematically, when we break it down, there are a ton of disadvantages and systematic disadvantages that we face in life in general, but especially financially. So why I think it's important for us, because there's no way that you can obtain wealth without assets. And when we talk about assets, specifically property is one of the greatest vehicles to get to wealth. So again, you're not obtaining property unless it's inherited or it's financed. To some extent, until you get to the point to where you can purchase a home outright, which for many of us, that is not reality. In our community. So again, I think the credit piece is so critical for personal or for business, because what it is doing is it is providing us with the tools to be able to level the playing field that we were already disproportionately placed at the back of the line with. Because literally, and I always break it down to this example, especially when I talk to like high school students about credit. Credit is so important because me and you, we could have the same car. That's the same dollar amount. And let's say both of our cars are $30,000. And I have a 720 credit score. Well, like most of us, in the minority community, we're probably high 500s, we're at 580 credit score. So that means my interest rate on my car will most likely be 3.2%.
Right.
When we look at a 580, well, that's bad. It's bad credit. It's not good credit. So with that being said, your interest rate is now going to be 18%. So even though we have the same car that we're financing here, they're not going to require me to put any money down. You'll have to come up with $2,500. And then on top of that, I'll pay more in my car. I'll pay more for the car because the interest, you'll pay more for the car because the interest rate is higher.
Right.
Which means how much you're paying for the car it's more.
Yeah.
Because instead of, if you're paying 18% on that 30,000, and I'm paying the 3.2, well, your car note probably is going to be another $100 higher than mine. Ooh. So what that is doing, because we don't have the knowledge or the wisdom about credit, what you've done is you put yourself at a disadvantage financially to even save, to even have the money to start that business, to even have the money to purchase that home and create generational wealth. And so that's the main goal of the financial services that I offer, is how can we equip ourselves with the knowledge, because that's the power. How can we equip ourselves with the knowledge to make sure that we are creating generational wealth or sustaining it, and I think that will really help us level the playing field, because we never got a 40 acres and a mule, Girl. And so, but that'll definitely, and I think it's not just about the money. I think that a lot of time for me, it's opportunities. Yeah. So even when I think about my kids, I don't want to be broke, because I want my kids to have better opportunities than I did whenever I decide to have them. I want them to not grow up in a traumatic environment, how, I did in St. Louis, or, a lot of us experience different things there. Yeah. I want them to be able to grow up in an environment that is conducive to creating and sustaining that generational wealth, to sustaining peace, to sustaining an environment that allows them to thrive off of love and not survival. Mm-hmm. So big picture. I'll keep talking, but I'll shut it right there.
So I had a follow up to that though, because you talked about speak kind of forward thinking about children, things like that. When you were a child, was it talked about a lot in your home about finances? Because in my home, my parents talked to me about budgeting, and they sat me down and looked at spreadsheets of what the family budget is, how much is coming in, things like that. But growing up, I was surprised to know that wasn't done in most households. So one, was that done in yours? But then two, if not, how did you start to learn about finances, or what really inspired you to become financially literate?
Whew. Said you were blessed. Okay.
Yes.
I literally don't know any other person of color that grew up having that type of head start, and within our Black community or within communities of color, that is a head start, because it definitely didn't happen in my home. I'll tell you that. And it didn't happen in anyone else's home that I really knew. I think the closest that I ever got to it is that I remember my mom and my dad said, you better take care of your credit, because once you have bad credit, it's hard to get out of it. Yeah. But I didn't know what that meant. So, they never really broke it down further than that. And I think that, so honestly, what ended up happening to me is, luckily, I was just at the bank when I was 18 years old. Okay. I was banking at Vantage Credit Union in St. Louis.
I still have them.
Oh my God, me too. I still have my first credit card. Same. So literally, I was 18. I walked in, and I was opening up an account because I had just switched. I was working at White Castle, y'all. And so good. But I just switched over, so I wanted to switch my banks. And when I came in, so I had happened to go with my mom that day or whatever, because she banked there. She was a teacher. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. So we walk in, and the lady just so happens, we start talking about a lot of different things. And she was like, oh, wow, you're going to Mizzou. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. That's so awesome. Well, you should start building your credit. So she introduced me to the idea. Right. And it wasn't a person of color at all, but she was just really nice. She was, and she engaged me in the conversation about why I should build my credit. Yes. And how important it was. She didn't go into a ton of detail, but she just let me know, hey, you need to establish a credit card right now. You're working, you're making money. Establish this credit card, and this is how you use it. Yeah. And so I did that. So by the time I was 21, I had a 731 credit score when I went to buy a car. Literally all off of managing that one credit card properly. But so honestly, that's what gave me my motivation, is when I went to buy my first car. And I brought my first car, it was from a rinky dink lot. I won't say their names, but they gave me a 24% interest rate, but I didn't know any better. It wasn't because of my credit, it was because I didn't know any better. Right. And I went by myself. Yeah. But when I went to trade it in, which is a few months later, I was still 21. And I found out I had a 731 credit score. And the guy was like, oh my God, do you know what this means? Like, you're in a great position. And so by the way that he responded to me in that situation, I said, this must really mean something. Let me go research it. And that's what prompted me to start researching credit. And then once I dug into credit, I was seeing a bunch of other information about 401ks and investments and stocks. And so that's what kind of brought me into that world. And then I started asking questions because I've always been an inquisitive kid. But that's what kickstarted the interest in financial literacy.
I love that. And that's so interesting because I'm like in my head thinking about like my upbringing and what I was told about credit and money and stuff. But what I was also thinking, and Cedric and I talked a little bit about this, is just how Black people and people of color in general, but speaking from the Black experience, how we are just now getting to a point where we have the capacity to even start thinking about these type of things that other people have, been doing for decades and decades. But we're not even far removed from slavery or Jim Crow and all this other stuff. And so we have not had the ability to be thinking about these like leisurely things, and finances isn't leisurely, but I was telling him about when I went skiing and just seeing like kids doing it who've been doing it forever. I'm like, my parents never took me skiing. That wasn't something that we, could go do when I was a kid. But this is just something I'm thinking about. Like, we are just now getting to a place where, and it's crazy to think about 2021, that some people are still learning about like generational wealth, and we're the generation to kind of start making that change. Like, I have parents who were born in 63 and 64. And so I can't even
64.
Yeah. So I can't even imagine what type of lifestyle like they were born into, their upbringing. We don't talk much about their upbringing. I know that there is nothing but trauma for someone born in the 60s, and so to get to a place where you can start to think about, okay, I'm going to garden, walk my dogs, invest in stocks, be able to do other things than stress and work
and survive
is just like, I always think about that. So
no, that's real. Like, literally our parents were born around the time to where literally we just got the right to vote.
Yes.
So we'll just drops mic, literally we just got the right to vote. Like, literally, we just marched on Washington. Like, there's so much that has just transpired. And so I get it. And I think a lot of times when I have my clients to where they're still like, well, I really need to build my credit. I've never really built my credit, and they're almost 60. Yeah. But I always think about that space of grace, because it's like, well, I understand most likely you were probably trying to survive. Exactly. Or you were trying to figure out how do I get out of this cycle of poverty, or how do I get out of this cycle of living check to check, or just trying to find some sense of peace, and so I think that it's beautiful, like always, and said to just come from parents or to have that different experience to where they were able to equip you with some of the things that were absolutely necessary. And it's like, hopefully our generation is a generation that makes the opposite of that the norm, to where it's like, what, your parents didn't teach you about credit? Yeah. They weren't business owners. They didn't do anything, hopefully we get to that point, but I think that's just even important to share that that's not every Black person's experience, where they didn't learn anything, they were financially illiterate completely. That's not the case, right? But I think that it's something that just definitely needs more prevalent, to where more of us can have those experiences, and we're operating out of a place of increase and not just out of like I said, that survival mode. Right.
And you talked a lot about the finances and why it's important. And it seems like just throughout your journey that you've become more financially literate overall, and you offer those services through Speak Prosperity. But how did you transition with your day job, your 9-to-5, into the banking world, to that financial industry, through your own experiences?
Yes. So literally I was doing retail management for years, and I said, you know what? I was becoming increasingly passionate about financial literacy and making sure that people of color had access to that, that people like me that come from where I come from could get, that I could share the same information with them, but on a day to day. That just became more and more my passion. And to be honest, God was literally closing doors that shouldn't have even been closed. But I would just say that was another way of God just having his way. And I just said, you know what, God, let your will be done. Yeah. I want to move to Dallas. I really do. God, this is how I want it to happen. You know, I took my leap of faith. My leap of faith was coming down for interviews. And I said, you know what? I'm only going to apply in finance because I believe something is going to hit. You know, I have a degree. I have the background. I have knowledge. I have skills. You know, I'm just going to believe that that's what's going to happen. I'm going to apply for those jobs and I'm going to apply where I want to live. And so I was literally, but throughout that time, again, I knew that I didn't have a degree in finance. I didn't have a background in finance. Yeah. So I knew that I need to be on my P's and Q's. So during that time, you can't just say, well, God, this is what I want, make it happen. Like God said, faith without works is dead. It don't matter what you believe. Are you putting in the work?
Yes.
So throughout that time, while I was applying for those finance jobs, I was researching information to where I could come to the table and I could talk about current events that were going on in the financial world so that I could impress those that I was interviewing with. And that's what ultimately got me the job that I got at the bank that I'm working for now, which is a major banking institution. But so that was how I did that transition. Mm-hmm. So I put faith on it, but I put work into it as well. And I just made sure I was preparing myself. And throughout that transition, to show you how God did it, I had no idea they were going to necessarily train me and equip me with more knowledge to do my job. And that has never stopped to this day.
Yeah.
Has never stopped. They just continue to educate us and make sure that we're informed on anything, whether it be with the SBA, the Triple P loan, and so many other things that are going on in the finance industry. Yeah. So literally it's so crazy, but literally I trusted God and I put the work in, and now I can see the manifestation of why I had to work the way I did in that transition. But so in transition, you cannot be stagnant. I think that's the main thing. We think that God is supposed to carry us through the transition. No, you need to work.
Yes.
Roll up your sleeves. Yes.
I feel that completely. So what do you enjoy most about what you do? Or what are some of the biggest challenges?
Can we start with the challenges?
Sure, yes. Yes, we can work our way towards positivity.
Yes, indeed. We want to end on a positive note.
Yes.
I think the biggest challenge, to be honestly, as a woman in finance, and we really haven't hit that component, but as a woman in finance, not only a black person, but a black woman. So there's two modes of oppression there, and biasy. But literally what the difficulty that I face in is, okay, what is constantly questioning my my position and my capacity and my right to be there, telling them what to do with their finances. And that's every day. And believe it or not, you would like to think that you would just get it from non-black people or non-people of color, and it comes from us too. Yeah. And I think that, but specifically, I will say, especially with men, I'm sorry, I'm giving up on you, but it's typically with men. I mean, I've literally had a man tell me, I'll never forget this, Lord. He said, I mean, you cute and all, but I need someone who knows what they're talking about. So is there a man here who can help me? Just like that. And I was just
how do you handle that?
Literally in that situation, I had just walked up and said, hey, well, I'm one of the relationship managers. At that time, I was just a relationship manager. I was like, yeah, I'm one of the relationship managers. I can assist. And in that moment, I said, well, okay, well, I appreciate the compliment. I said, but I'm very well equipped and able of doing my job. I said, but if you're uncomfortable, then I'll let you seek out whatever counsel you feel like is more, is more best, a more suitable fit for you. I said, so you're more than welcome to wait on those couches over there. And literally, I was thinking ignorantly in my head because at that time, somebody had peed on one of the couches.
What happened?
Okay. You know what? I'm petty. All right, God, forgive me. But it was an older lady that
she finna sent this man to go sit on the people's couch.
It was an older woman that came in and she had an accident on the couch. I directed him to that couch. But
petty.
No, okay. he deserved all of that. Okay.
Okay, but that was not in my current employer that I'm currently with.
Just to clarify.
But anyway, so but I would say that's the most difficult part of my job is trying to work through the biases of them seeing me as not only black, but as woman, but as a black woman, and just constantly questioning my right to be there. But to get into the positive things.
Yes.
on the positive aspect, I think the most powerful thing that literally at times has brought tears to my eyes is when I see a client that I met, 6 months to a year ago, or I would say at least a year. Typically, that's how long, it'll take. And I started working with them, whether I, initially discuss building credit with them, or we discuss how to invest, or how we sat down and created a budget together. And we came up with a plan, is when I can see them a year later, year and a half, 2 years later, and they're flourishing. I'll never forget one of my first clients. I met him. He was like, I think 23 at the time. Literally, he had a couple $100 saved. He worked a good job though, and he stayed at home with his parents. So he had maximum opportunity to save and to really get to that next level. So I remember I talked to him about building credit. We opened up, a credit card. We got him started building his credit. I said, if you listen to me and if you do your own research and if we work this thing in tandem, if we stick to our plan, then you will be successful and you will continue to meet new financial goals. And literally 3 years later, this man has over $30,000 in his account, that he saved, that he told me that he saved. Of course, I wouldn't share bank information, that he's told me that he saved, but he's shown me receipts. Also at that, we're looking at a 740 plus credit score. So he's in the 740s. But then we're also looking at someone who's had their credit limit increase, who's actually now doing well, has other credit cards, who's a homeowner now, who's financed the vehicle and it's almost paid off. So it's just to really see him flourish and thrive, and to know that I was blessed enough to play a role in that. Like that does it for me, is to know that there was some type of impact that I had. Not saying that I have to be the most, I had to have the most impact, but to know that I played a part in your story to thriving. Yeah,
I love that. Really that would drive me too, just be able to see, people change their situations. So.
Yeah.
I'm proud. Yes.
So that's something to definitely be proud of. You're doing a lot of great work. We touched on some of the messaging you're providing via YouTube and your blog. We touched on the financial services. One thing we didn't really touch on, but I know is a big part of what you do, is the merch.
Hello.
Tell us more about kind of the merch and where you get your fashion sense from. For those that don't know, Alicia's always very well put together. Even when she's in a hoodie and sweats, she's always popping. So where'd that sense of fashion come from? Tell us more about some of the merch that you provide through Speak Prosperity.
Yeah, so what most people don't know is I always had a passion for fashion when I was younger. I used to have this sketchbook to where I would draw clothes. Like this was like when I was like started at maybe like 8 or 9. I had a book that I would put together, and I had all these different like items for like gowns and blazers and just different things, hoodies, t-shirts. So I always had a passion for fashion, and then I found myself working in fashion retail. I loved it, especially with especially men, styling men. I really loved. And that's what I thought that I was going to be a CEO of. But I guess, God had other plans versus my image consulting business. It's okay. Tear. So that was something I really loved. It didn't even feel like work for me when I did it. Yeah. So it was truly a passion. And so when God told me that he wanted me to do Speak Prosperity LLC, I was kind of crushed, because I thought that I wouldn't have the ability to truly kind of, show my fashion sense outside of what I was doing on a personal level. And so when Speak Prosperity, when the merchandise began to thrive and I had more access to more capital to put different options together and put different styles of items together, I was just like, okay, God, now you're talking, this is what I want to do. I like to create. We're here. And so even some of the like today I have on one of my Lux hoodies, which says, I owe God everything. Yes. And so I come up with all of the ideas for like the content of the actual graphics. Some of the graphics I have Craig Morris Jr. do. He actually went to, so he's from St. Louis as well. Okay. He's dope. But I'll do some of like the basic graphics myself. Yeah. But so not only are we trying to put together something dope, something that's chill, something that you can dress up, that you can dress down, that is minimalistic, but also at the same time, it has a message. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. And so it's like literally while I'm making a fashion statement, while I'm chill, while I'm cool, while I dress this up or dress it down, how will the person that's walking in front of me, how will they be touched or impacted by what's on my shirt? And that's what we always try to think. So literally we have everything from, we have tees, long sleeves, baseball tees, regular hoodies, regular sweatshirts. But then we also just came out with our Luxe line, which is much more high quality things. The fabric that we use is amazing because I've researched the manufacturers. But this Luxe line, guys, okay, it's next level and it's affordable. Like I've done my research in the market. Us at Speak Prosperity LLC, we're not trying to get rich selling merchandise. Easily, so many people tell me, Alicia, like, why are your Luxe hoodies $40? Those should be $60. Yeah. And I'm like, again, it's not about the profit. The purpose is the profit. That's the profit.
That's the bar.
Yes, it is.
The purpose is the profit. So at the end of the day, we want to make it accessible because again, that's like me putting a major dollar sign on the word that's free. The Bible, you can open that for yourself. You can have the app. And I want our merchandise to be like a walking Bible in a sense that is relatable to us. So one of my favorite designs that I have is I Bible God heavy. And I love when people ask me, if they don't understand the slang, I love when they ask me, what does that mean? And I'm like, that just means like, you know how like you meet a guy or you meet a girl and you're vibing with her, y'all are chilling, y'all are just connected, y'all are here, y'all are in sync. That's exactly how it is with God, but it's on a heavier level. It's on a higher level. So, but yeah, so that's some of the stuff that we have going on. Hopefully down the pipeline, we just dropped some crop tops. So we have a crop top line. We're trying to reach as many people as possible. We are not biased over here at Speak Prosperity LLC. Some are a little bit more modest and some are not, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But hopefully we plan to expand more into sweatpants, and I know we just dropped leggings, and so we plan to do it. We have a few more goodies coming out the bag for you guys down the road. So we're only getting bigger and better, but you know, we're trying to make sure that we're growing responsibly and at a sustainable level. So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves right now.
For sure. And I can attest to it. I have a couple of the t-shirts, a couple of the early models.
He modeled for me, guys.
I was just about to say, I was one of the early brand ambassadors, one of the early models back in the day.
True that.
So for all you all that didn't know, I'm not only a podcast host, I'm also an aspiring model.
Yes.
So I need to try out some of the newest ones, and we need to do another collab.
We really do. And you know, it's funny because I had a few people hit my DM like, so this model. I was like, well, I tagged his Instagram page. So, you know, do with that as you may. No, for real. And I believe I've told you that before too.
Hey, no. Let's see. All right.
But Said be chilling, y'all.
Said does chill.
Y'all know the vibes.
But no, seriously, and I definitely have to get you guys some merchandise, but I didn't want to just pick something and give it to you. I wanted you guys to be able to pick, so I'll definitely be, you know, dropping a little goodie, you know, to our wonderful host here.
Oh my gosh, greatly appreciate that. And I've so enjoyed this conversation today. I've learned so much. I feel like we got to talk about some great topics. You are a multi-layered person, and it was fun just being able to like pick your brain. So we always end and wrap up every episode with a little segment just to kind of get to know our guests even a little bit better. So Cedric is going to lead us into our segment before we wrap up today, so we can get to know Alicia on a different level.
Okay.
For sure. So on your website, you have a few different gospel playlists.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite ones? Like your favorite songs? Name 3, 4, 5 of your favorite gospel songs.
Oh, she's
so
excited.
my favorite gospel playlist is gospel bangers, because and gospel bangers is just really it's gospel music for millennials and modern day believers, you know, so it's a little bit more relatable, a little bit more in tune or in tandem with what you'll hear on the radio. But my favorite gospel song right now, hands down, is Hands in It by Evan and Eris. I know they're extremely low key in comparison to like your Kirk Franklin's, Marvin Sapp, the Walls Group. I love the Walls Group. Them. Literally, my life is one of my favorites. Yes. But it's called Hands in It by Evan and Eris. It's amazing, and it has Michael Todd at the end of it giving like a 1-minute sermon. Yes, it's bomb. I also am really vibing with Lecrae's most recent album, Restore Me, the entire album, but specifically the song Drown with John Legend. And I would say for my third one is Corinne Hawthorne's, like, her whole new album is fire. Yeah. But I really love a song on there called Joy, because like I said, I'm always, I was at a deficit of peace for so long. And so joy just reminds me of what I have, what's already in me. And it just kind of empowers me to bring it out. Yes. So those are three of my tops right now. But of course, I've been expanding my taste buds a little bit because, but it's a song called Graves. It's Graves into Gardens by, is it called, what is the name of that group? It's like Hillside. It's a very diverse church. And it sounds like a country gospel song, which is so crazy because if you know me, I don't listen to any country, any pop, anything that's not, close to, if it's not soulful, it's not for me. Okay. But that is one of my favorites. Yeah. That's one of my favorites right now. But yeah, Marvin Sapp. Okay. One more. I'm sorry. Marvin Sapp, I would have to say, my God, so many Marvin Sapp joints that I love. But it's one, he has a new song called Thank You For It All, which I really love. So those are probably like my top 5 that I'm just thinking of right now. But check out those gospel playlists. It's on fire. We have a gospel/worship, a gospel happy playlist. So for those of y'all who don't want to be feeling sad listening to gospel, I got you. Mm-hmm. And then we have a gospel bangers playlist, which is more, upbeat and more in tandem with what you hear on the radio.
And so for those, just another reminder for the listener, we do have the invited monthly playlist that we put out on Apple Music. So be on the lookout for a couple of these songs that Alicia mentioned added to the playlist. So that way, if you forget, you don't have to do a whole bunch of searching. It's right there for you.
Love it. I need the link.
Gotcha.
Definitely. We're going to share that with
coming soon.
Yes.
I know you're a fashionista. I know you love your fashion. And I hear a lot about these online stores. The one you can order from, the one is good, cheap, but it comes fast, might not come fast. I don't know. I hear different stuff on Twitter.
It depends on the day.
So here we go. We have Fashion Nova. Mm-hmm. We have
Shein.
And then we have
Pretty Little Thing.
Okay,
and let's give a fourth one. So
have you ever done Lovely? I haven't bought anything. Lovely Wholesale. I haven't bought anything from them yet, but they have some really good pieces.
I try everything though, so I'm about to write it down.
Okay, I like their pants. They have some really good stacked pants. But anyway, I'm sorry, y'all.
I haven't stacked pants yet.
Me either. I know. I'm sorry, y'all.
So okay, but so one gotta go. Fashion Nova, Shein, Pretty Little Thing, and I'm gonna put my last one, Misguided.
Nah. Okay. Pretty Little Thing has to go. She has to go. First of all, I just ordered 5 tops from Fashion Nova before I came here, like literally in the car before I started driving. I just placed my order. Shein just has amazing pieces, amazing prices, and Misguided is just amazing. Like I cannot live without her dresses. Period. The dresses, the night out, the night on the town dresses, like I have to have.
PLT is a joke, just so y'all know.
I was about to ask for our male listeners who may not be familiar with these things, maybe trying to buy the girl something and heard this is good. Why is this not good? Why does this one have to go?
For me, it's the quality for me. Ooh. It's the customer service for me. And I think that would be it. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay.
I think their sizing is pretty off too.
Yeah, the sizing is always extremely off, but typically it's significantly smaller.
Oh my god!
And the material never fits the way that they say it's going to fit. Like the measurements just aren't hitting for me at all.
Trash.
Completely. And it's for any body type. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's always not as pictured and not as stated, as far as the fabric and everything or how stretchy it is.
Exactly.
It doesn't work for me. I don't own anything. I had to give it all away.
I was greatly surprised with Shein, so I support that.
Shein's pretty dope.
I like
Shein's pretty dope. I like Shein.
Noted. You're one of the people that I know that every other week on Instagram, you're in a new city.
Oh.
You always put up a little poll, which city am I pulling up in this week? And I always participate and guess. And usually I'm wrong because you're always somewhere different. So with that being said, what are 3 places that you haven't traveled to that's next on your list?
Oh my God. My dream destination is Santorini, Greece. Easy.
Okay.
But truly that I want to go next is Bali.
Okay.
Phuket. And believe it or not,
Tia says she don't know where Phuket
I've
is.
never even heard of Phuket.
It's not too far from Thailand.
Okay.
But just know that I don't know about you guys, and I know what you guys are probably thinking with COVID. But Tokyo is still one of the places I have to go. It is on my list. And I feel like I've done, I really want to make sure, I really want to take that 16-hour flight. I know, call me crazy. But I really want to get to that side of the world and explore. That'll be huge. And I really want to tour Italy as well. Like, completely tour. Like, Pisa, like Rome, all of it.
Yeah.
Well, next time I just want you to invite me on one of these trips. This girl went on a trip with a complete stranger a couple weeks ago out of the country. So
we met
maybe
on
you
Clubhouse in a Black travel group. Oh my God.
What? Okay,
we met on Clubhouse in a Black travel group. And she's literally one of my girls now. Like, yeah.
So, okay, I mean, we have to ask about it now. So how was that, traveling with a stranger?
You know what? Of course, we vetted each other. We got to know each other, made sure that we were like a match as best as possible. But luckily for us, it ended up working out and it was great. But for a lot of other people, it doesn't work out that way. Now, the only thing about Big Money said, Big Money said over there, okay, you have to get into his calendar.
Yes.
Okay,
Listen.
you can't do anything last minute with said. You have to get on said's calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like the last minute trips too much. Maybe I need to be a little more spontaneous in that aspect. But yeah, we gotta make something happen. Just shoot me a calendar invite. Just shoot me a calendar invite. We can make something happen.
You know I stay on my Google Calendar.
All right, there we go. Say less.
But no, really, honestly, I really just want like a dope co-ed like trip to where it's literally nothing but good vibes. No messy real world type of stuff. But I just want like some like old school real world. Y'all remember that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm acting like I'm old. But but I just want like I want a co-ed trip like that. No, honestly, I really want to plan one, but we'll have to see.
Okay.
We'll have to see. I'll throw it out there.
Keep us in the loop.
Speaking of your traveling, what are a couple other things that you want to do more of this year that maybe you haven't been able to focus on or that you want to focus more on and tap more into?
What's your top two?
I know, top two. Literally reading the books that I purchased. I've always been an avid reader, and most people don't know or believe that about me, but I always have been. And but I fell off in 2020. So definitely reading. And then the other thing for me would be I have been taking my fitness goals seriously. I made a lot of progress, but literally, like this is my year to get chiseled. Okay,
come on.
Now I probably won't pop up with abs, so don't hold me to that. But this year we are truly taking our health to the next level. So in the fitness journey to the next level. So even better eating habits, even better exercising habits. But those are the two things that I definitely want to do more of, and I will do more of this year.
What are some of your favorite books that you've read or any recommendations you have for any of our listeners?
The number one would be Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. It is an absolute must. If you're a slightly ambitious person, that is the book that you need to read before embarking on any type of career path or entrepreneurial journey. It will completely change your life. Shout out to Keith Ferrazzi. He was dropping gems. The whole book, like bars. The other one for me would be The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. That's my fave. Like, and I think that any black person, or it could be for anyone, but specifically any black person, I believe that is a book that you absolutely need to read. I'm not saying that you have to be militant, but I think that it just makes you more aware of where you come from and how to get where you really aspire to go. Those are, and then my last book, I'm sorry, one more I would do, for me, it would be The Art of War.
Okay.
Easy. Just because I feel like it gives you practical strategies in how to engage in the battle of life, though, for me. Right. So I feel like a lot of those war strategies are transferable to life skills.
Oh, that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, so literally, I don't want to give away too much. You need to read the book. It's not even that long, and it's been translated. It's available at Barnes & Nobles. My God, go get it.
Okay.
It's absolutely amazing.
We're going to have to make a book list, too.
By General, what is his name? Tosu? General Tzu. Or
I
don't know.
I believe.
But the Art of War. Yeah, you feel me.
yeah. Cool. Who else? I know you know a lot of people. Alicia knows everybody. She's plugged in all over Dallas, St. Louis, the country. Who do you know that you think will be a good guest on our podcast to be able to share what they have going on, what they have to offer, have an interesting story, or just the overall fun personality? Who do you think should be on here? And then you have to plug us to whoever you say. So don't go saying Jay-Z or somebody, unless you have to plug. But whoever else.
Woo. Okay, so actually, y'all already know this person though.
Who?
Whitney Thompson.
Wow. That's great because Whitney is on episode 4. So there we go. Perfect. So try again.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. To come on someone else. Oh my God. I just think she's absolutely amazing.
We do too.
The show.
Literally love talking to her.
Oh my God. Okay. So who else would I plug in? Goodness gracious. There's so many. Are we looking for a particular field?
You tell us. In any field, any story, just someone you think that the people need to hear from.
Honestly, in that next realm, I would say is Tajay Cox. I would absolutely say Tajay Cox, also known as Tajay Serene, but a lot of people just say Tajay. But anyway, it's Tajay, y'all. That's my girl, Tajay Cox. She's a real estate agent in Texas now, but she has a robust amount of experience, and again, that's who I hired to teach me how to edit videos.
Yes.
So she has a robust amount of experience in the social media platform. She does social media consulting. She does apartment locating. She obviously she sells homes as well. But she can even teach you how to video edit if you would like. She makes digital business cards. She's uber talented. The girl is just a creative. I've had this girl crop me out of backgrounds, all types of work. And she'll probably kill me for saying this, but literally she's extremely creative, talented. She's even done music. Matter of fact, one of my favorite gospel songs, she actually has a song called Grace. It's on my playlist, on my Gospel Bangers playlist. But she's bomb. She can sing, she can rap, she can do so much.
Yeah.
And then she's just a bomb personality too. Yeah. And she's built up a pretty good following as well on like Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So she's doing some pretty dope things, and she has been for a while. So I would definitely plug you into her.
Cool. We coming for you.
Yeah.
We coming for you. Gonna have you on. Where can people find out more about you? Where can plug all your socials, your website, your YouTube? Where can people find out more about Alicia and Speak Prosperity?
Yes, absolutely. So both of us have link trees, speaking for the business, speaking for myself.
Yes.
So my link tree is just, of course, Linktree / Alicia Kemp. And then for Speak Prosperity LLC, it is Linktree / Speak Prosperity LLC. The website is speakprosperitylllc.net. That's where you can also shop our merchandise as well, visit our blog. And even from our website, we have the links to all of our socials from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. The only handle that is different from our YouTube channel down to our Instagram, the only ones that's different is Twitter, because it can't be that long. So it's just it's S Prosperity LLC.
Okay.
But I would say, just tap into us, man. The website will definitely take you everywhere that you need to go. But those link trees are extremely helpful too. They have like other interviews, podcasts that I've recently done, but also just different things that you would like to get tapped into with the brand or myself.
Okay.
Perfect. And then we just like to ask a lot of our guests this to be a resource for others listening. What advice or pieces of advice or knowledge can you pass down to people who are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship and owning their own brand?
Number one, the biggest lesson that I've learned in business is your family and friends are not your target audience. And do not expect them to be. Because honestly, they're not obligated to support your business.
Yes.
That it is your job to research and attract who your target audience is. And I know that's hurtful for a lot of people, and it hurt my feelings at first too. But just realizing that, again, yes, you are a business. People love and they do support you, and some people will support you in some ways that are not monetarily, and then some won't for whatever reasons.
Right.
But it is your job to do the work. It's not your Facebook followers, your Instagram followers to support your business. Do the work, find out who your target audience is, and figure out what it is that they need from you, and find a way to bring solutions to their doorstep. That's that as far as business goes. But also at the same time, understand the power and patience in business. Give yourself the time to truly develop a good product or service to deliver to people, and understand that everyone's not an overnight sensation. And then also, last but not least, the same thing that my dad told me, it is power in people. Connect. But when you're looking to connect, a lot of people do this as well. When they're looking to connect, they think that connections are, okay, what can I get from you? Hey, I'm reaching out to you because I need this from you. No, if you really want to gain someone's attention, especially someone who has access to everything, what do? Provide them with something that they don't currently have. Show them your value. Say, hey, this is what I can do for you. I'm hoping that we can connect and that we can grow together, versus just saying, hey, what can you do for me? No. And that's something I learned to never eat alone. What can I do for you?
Yes.
So, you'll make it nowhere without people, but do the work and do the research to find your people, AKA your target audience.
I love it. Look at all this wisdom.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for anyone, no matter if they're starting their own business, but just in the workplace or in relationships, whatever the case may be. So definitely appreciate that. And again, Alicia, we appreciate you for being on. Know you for almost 10 years now, and it's great just hearing different sides of your story, different layers to you, and I'm sure all of our audience will appreciate it. So that's a wrap, folks. Another episode of the Invited Podcast in the books. Appreciate you for being on.
Thank you. I'm honored and humbled. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.